crafties, hello, welcome back to another tutorial. My name is Infinity and I am glad to be presenting the third and final part of this tutorial. For today's tutorial, if you remember, for the past 2 weeks we have been designing this little mystery shape, but I think by this point most of you guys know exactly what this little patch is. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. As you may or may not know, Ko-fi is a platform for artists to basically advertise their work, upload their work, and let's see, it's an easier way to go about raising funds for your craft projects than Patreon, which has demanding tiers, etc., etc. So for today's tutorial, we're going to be chaining 2 again. Of course, if you've been keeping up with it, you know this already, but if you have not, then I recommend you go back and craft along with me. And we're just going to be going into these first few stitches all the way up to our, all the way up to our white stitches. Here I am fumbling with my half double crochets. Sometimes they do that. Again, the plies and the yarn all make a difference. And before I lift that up, I am going to reach for my white yarn because it was not handy. And I am going to yarn over and insert my hook in that last half double crochet, but I'm not going to complete it. But instead, I am going to be connecting my white yarn again. Yay. And securing it down, putting my blue yarn to the back and my white yarn to the front. Now what's different about this row of stitches is, much like when we created the bottom of the handle here, we're going to be just going straight across with the white yarn until we get to the end of this little white patch, I guess. So I'm going to make sure I have enough tail to cover my yarn, my stitches, and now I am just going to half double crochet until the end of this row, and I'm going to pause and meet you back. So now that I have reached the end of the white stitches, I'm just going to go in and make this last one right here by yarning over, inserting my hook through the proper space, and pulling up a loop. And what I'm going to do now is rejoin my blue yarn from the back just to finish that stitch and secure these stitches like so. And in doing that, I am going to continue and finish this row in blue half double crochets. But first off, I want to put my yarn to the back where it belongs, so it's not in the front and looking all gross. Now I'm going to finish this row in half double crochets, and then we'll move on to the next row. Alright, so now that we've finished that row, I'm going to snip my yarn. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And what I'm going to do now is chain 2, 1, 2, and turn my work. So at the end of last week's tutorial, I told you guys that I was going to be weaving in my ends because they're getting in my way, and so clearly I've done that. I forgot to snip this little guy, but it's alright. I'll get him after today. And what I'm going to do now is yarn over and insert my hook to my top of my stitch until I get to my white stitches. And I will be completing this blue stitch, and I'm just going to go across the top of our little design here, all in blue stitches. I wanted to talk about a little bit with the whole weaving in ends. I know in my color changing tutorial and at the beginning of this one, I talked about how there's a particular way that I hold my yarn when I do change colors, and that's to ensure that I have a clean transition across the front of my pattern. Now you might see here, you might not see here, this little white peek through, which I don't particularly like. But in comparison to the back here where the blue is clearly peeking through that white and the white is clearly coming through the red, etc., etc. Yeah, that's why I hold my yarn the way I do, and I'm just glad that now I have a clear example for you guys to see what I'm talking about with that. So I'm just going to continue along. Just quickly doing these stitches, neatly doing these stitches, all the way to the end of the row. And I guess one plus today about us finally finishing this design is that this tutorial will be much shorter than the last two. I think the first one was 42 minutes, the next one was like 30 minutes, and now we're here and we might be pushing 12 to 20 minutes at the most. So yay, congratulations for making it to this point, bearing with me and all. I don't know, I had so much fun making this with you guys, and so by the time that I upload this tutorial, I will have my little patch blocked out, and I will also have the written pattern up for free over on the Craftsy page, so feel free to check that out. And there will be more patterns that will go up on the Craftsy page. So a lot of people ask if I have my own website, and the answer is yes and no. I am currently developing my website, so it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. But I am really happy with some of the results up to this point, and with the end of the semester coming up, I look forward to having at least 2 weeks of free time to set up, get that together, and also upload some of the other content that I want to put on my website. But the answer is yes and no. Yes and no. And I am also open to doing Q&As. I have tried some in the past to no avail, but if anyone has any questions about the crochet work or my artwork, feel free to ask. I love asking questions. I love feeling engaged with my audience. That's part of why I started going into teaching, because that's just my thing. And we're gonna go and go and go all the way to the end of this row. And I realize I've been doing this real time with you guys, but this is going to be such a short tutorial. I'm going to pause and meet you guys back at the beginning of the next row. Alright, so I am at the beginning of the next row. I've already chained my 2, so I'm just going to turn my work. And what I'm going to do for the next 4 rows is just make my double crochets in blue all the way across, and I will meet you back when I have completed those rows. Okay, and I have gotten to the last stitch of my 6th row, and now I'm just gonna fasten off and sew in this final string. Woohoo! So glad I don't have any more strings. So as you can see, once you are finished with those rows and you have completed your swatch, you have this adorable little coffee cup. So if you enjoyed this make along, I ask that you go check out the Ko-fi page. It's also a great way to keep up with what's going on with me, but also what I'm also doing with the craft or websites thing on YouTube. I've been super active on Twitter lately, so check that out as well. Just subscribe to my other media so that you can keep up with what's going on. Now, the next tutorial that I plan on doing will be on how to work in the round, which there's a couple of different ways. So we'll get into that next time. Happy making, crafties. Alright, so once I got to that 6th row, I fastened off and I am ready to sew in that end at my leisure. So some things that I want to point out before I say goodbye is that obviously the larger that you make this pattern, the bigger the heart will look and the more heart shaped that the heart will look. But for this little mini swatch and pattern, this is what it is, but it does fairly represent the little coffee emblem, and I'm happy with it. So what I'm going to do off camera is block this, and by the time that the video is up, this will be a nice little either thumbnail or end picture for you guys. So happy making. Hello crafties, thanks for finishing up another tutorial with me. I enjoyed designing and making this patch for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed following along as well. So as mentioned in the video, I have gone and typed up the written pattern for this tutorial that I've done today, and I have made some slight modifications to it, but it's nothing super different. So if you want to follow the written pattern while you're following along with the video, you're more than welcome to do so. Alright, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can tune in next week for our next series of tutorials. Also, feel free to hit me up in the comments below or send me a message letting me know the kinds of things that you want to see be made. Otherwise, I'll just be kind of pulling these out of a hat and going along that way. So, happy making, guys!